Happy Monday morning. It's 10 o'clock, more or less, which means it's time for relaxing painting with Dyson Dungeons. Painting means usually sanding and sometimes cementing, occasionally painting. Today there will be a little bit of painting. I'll be painting the wheels for the cart for the Savoia S.21 Porco Rosso's plane. And this is pretty much what it looks like here. There's a very useful Japanese instructions. So what I'll be working on today is the cart. I decided to do the cart first because that's kind of a low risk component of the model, and it'll give me an opportunity to practice some decent painting, a little bit of detail on the wheels, some washing on the wood, some detail on the clamps, that kind of thing. And it also happens that I have the paints for that, and I don't have the paints for the whole thing. Those are on order, and they're supposed to be delivered sometime like today or tomorrow. So on Friday, I'll be able to test those paints, especially the ones for the hull of the ship, of the plane. I'll show you that in a second. But I'm working on this. I'll be painting the wheels. I'll be sanding down and fitting the components of the cart. And if I can get them to fit, I will cement it all together and then prime it, and that will be ready for painting. Yay. Painting, hopefully get this assembled and looking good so that I can prime it between now and Friday and then paint it on Friday. And that should come out pretty nicely. And then the next steps are to work on this. I've got the parts out. I need to, get the little sprue bits off of them because there's always that. Test fit them. And in these cases, these I think are pretty sure are radiators. They're in two halves. Those need to be cemented together so that they can be sanded down. The seams can be sanded down so that those can be primed and painted. And the paint I'm waiting for is this yellowish color that's supposed to be the color of the wood. The hull of the ship and a lot of the internal components are wood, except for the tank, the fuel tank, of course. And I want to test that paint, and probably with a wash on it, brown or umber maybe, to see if I can make it actually look like wood. Most of this is pretty straightforward. Some of the parts are really tiny, like these control bits are really little bitty things. I have to be careful not to lose them. And then painting them is always a little bit difficult because they're so tiny. There's no place to hold them, even with a tweezers or a holder mechanism. So I'll be hopefully making some good progress on the cart today and getting these parts ready to get painted once the paint arrives. In the meantime, I need to tell you that I will not be here on Wednesday, where I am working on a workbench in a basement. This is not a studio. This is just the basement. And we're having a heat pump installed. We're going all eco-modern. Yay. And that's being installed Wednesday and Thursday. So they're going to be doing a lot of work right over my head. So I can't be here while that's happening. So it'll be an opportunity to clean up the workbench, though, because since they're working right above this, I need to clean it off. And once it's cleared off, then I can decide what to put back and how. Right. So the cart. I'm going to work on the pieces of the cart first. As you might have remembered, they had gaps around it, And I filled those in, at least tried to see how that turns out. If it needs to be redone, I can redo that. The thing that's got me a little bit worried is that there's an insert that went into this, and there's a raised lip all around the outside, which does not look like a single plank of wood. And my initial thought was just to sand it all down so that it was flat, so the whole thing was flat. But then I thought, well, that might be a problem with assembly because these bits, okay, okay, so I'll just say it this way: the X is not going to be affected by the sanding. This just goes in like this, okay, and that won't be affected by the sanding because I'm sanding down to that flat spot. But these will be affected by that sanding because they go up against these little edge things. Okay, and those are going to be somewhat smaller than they are now. It doesn't fit in the hole. And I don't want to have a big gap there. So my options are to, what happened is if I sanded these down, these bits here, if I sanded those down to the level that this is going to get sanded to, the gap, the distance will be larger, and this might not fit. Okay, without leaving a gap. I don't want gaps. See, this fits there like this. But if I sanded this down even like a 64th, 30, a hundredth of an inch, there could be a bigger gap there. So I'm thinking I'm going to do, this isn't always easy to do, but I'll try, is put these pieces together. Well, what my options would be, let's see if I put this together like this and this. I'll do this one. And, when my options are to get more hands, I need more hands so that I can get these pieces fit. Yeah, they fit. They fit nice and tight there. But if this is, if this right here, that's an issue. Yeah, when I put those together, there's a gap up here too that needs to be filled in, and that's got the same sort of thing. I definitely don't want those showing. I hadn't thought of that before, but that's going to slow things down a little bit. Because if you look there, that's supposed to be a single piece of wood, but when this fits into it, then it's not anymore. And I'm going to just test this. Yeah, it's raised up. Okay. Well, I'm going to sand this all down to the level of the wood underneath, of the plastic underneath. And then after I do the fitting, if for some reason there's a gap where I don't want one, okay, then I'll make some small adjustments by sanding down edges, I think. Yeah, as I'm test fitting this, I'm finding that these bottom tabs, are they're a one way thing. They're rounded on one side and flat on the other, and if they go in the wrong way, there. I was simply putting the part in backward. This model is kind of well designed that way. I mean, I can tell which is supposed to be the outside because it's got the ring on it. But okay, yeah. So I'll do what I was originally planning to do, because when this part goes in anyway, okay, the that bit is low compared to the rim around the outside, so it presents exactly the same issue as this. So if I sand the whole thing down, then this will be, well, I'll just do it. If there's an issue later, I will fix it by making adjustments. Yeah, so that's what's going to have to happen. Is I'm going to sand these down, um, test fit it again, do some assembly, and then these parts here, right? See that where that fits in, and that doesn't look like a single plank of wood. Okay, that needs to be filled in and sanded then too later. And these have seams on them that show. You can see the seam along the top. I'm going to sand that down. The sides don't matter because those disappear, but the bottom does. So top and bottom. I think I'll just do that now. Still got this bit of 600 grit, which is good grit. This is a good grit for this sort of thing, which is to sand the top and the bottom so that the seams don't show. The seam is disappearing there. Just get these done first. This is kind of an easy thing to do. And it has to be done, so I'm going to do that. And then I'm just putting off painting just a little bit, just for a little while. You can see this side has the seam on it where it was cemented together, and this side now is seamless, except for the very, very little bitty corner there. Okay, what's up with this? Hadn't noticed that before, but there is a ridge there from the molding. Weird. Okay, I'm going to get since I have this out like this, I'm going to get the corner first. I should have material for a monologue, but It's been like 2 weeks now, and I haven't really had any. I tried to talk about the Mickey Mouse Club last week, and I don't think that was really much of a success because, other than complaining about the not authentic ears that the guest star got on Talent Roundup Day, I was complaining about that because they weren't real mouse ears; they were sparkly white sequined ears. I don't know who would want those, but they got a cowboy hat kind of thing because it was a talent roundup. And they got ears, but they weren't authentic ears. And I talked about Spinnin' Marty and Applegate. But I can't remember too much about it other than that there were cartoons and these little things, these little serial episodes of something or other. To be honest, I can't remember what the Mouseketeers did. Like, what did they do to earn their keep? I'm not sure. Maybe they each had a talent. Maybe they would sing, dance, or something. Hey, Cubby, give us a dance. That kind of thing. That might have been happening. The rivalry between Mickey and Donald always getting like blown up or hurt in some way when Donald Duck tried to get some of the glory during the theme song. Let's all see what'll happen to Donald today. That was a thing. A horrible thing will happen to Donald Duck. You had to kind of start rooting for the underdog there. Donald was treated badly on the show. So other than that, and learning how to spell Mickey Mouse before we knew what the letters even were. I guess that was sort of an educational thing. It's rotating it because the light will catch it, and sometimes in one angle you can see the seams, and another you can't. There. I am being pretty particular about this model, and it's going to be like this for the whole thing. Like, why am I bothering on the bottom of the cart getting rid of the seams between the two halves of the pieces? It's because I really like this model a lot, and it was a special gift from other members of Dyson Dungeons. Porco Rosso and the Miyazaki films and all of that. So even though the card isn't supposed to be overturned, why would it be, right? I'm still going to take the time to even make the bottom look as seamless as possible. And wow. So what's going on with that? It's almost like there's a little gap there. Sand it a little bit more and see what happens. I don't know if I can get any better than that. Yeah. So I'm going to try to make this look really good. Even little bits like the cart. I'm going to definitely try to hit an A level on this model. A little bit beyond B plus even. This is a wooden cart, but the very top of this here is painted a different color. So I think how it was set up is that this was like the top of it was maybe covered in felt or leather, so that the hull like a cushion basically, so that when the seaplane sat on it, it didn't scar up the hull. Pieces eventually coming out. It's like the two halves weren't quite together as much as they should have been. There's like a little gap there. It keeps showing. It's kind of unexpected. I didn't expect that to happen. I'm going to rub away at it and see if it gets better or worse. But if I can see it like this, it's definitely going to show up when it's painted. And it's too small a gap to fill in with spackling compound. I can feel it with my fingers, so it's fingernail. It's definitely there. Side is I can't tell if it's a gap in there or one side is just higher than the other. No, there's definitely a gap that didn't get filled in with the model cement. That was cemented together. It's a little thing, but it isn't going to look good. It should be one seamless, solid surface. Don't know if it's like a surface thing that if I kept sanding it a little bit, I would get down below it. It's just or if it's going to go all the way through. Give it a little bit more and see if it disappears a little. Paper. As I'm talking to myself, I'm just talking about how disappointed I am in that there is that apparent gap there that isn't sanding out. Sorry, just got quiet because there's a lot of plastic here. I can keep sanding away at it, and it isn't really going to hurt it much. But I don't know. I mean, I can sand at it, but I want to know that if I keep sanding at it, the problem will disappear as opposed to just being deeper. It's going away there. Maybe I can. Yeah, I guess I'll just keep at it. It's really fine grained sandpaper. going slowly, okay, but I want that. I don't want to end up with big scratch marks all over the place. It looks like it is disappearing. Yep. I just need to keep going at it, but it is at least here. And you can see how it's not there anymore, pretty much. So it does disappear. That's a good thing. But this is taking like 5 times longer than I thought it would. So, but that's not unusual on this stream. Is that I'd say this will take like 3 minutes, and then it takes 20. But the result is that this will not have a seam showing around the top, which is the point. Especially since this is the top, and it's the most visible part. Yeah, okay. You can start seeing that this, you can see the white stripe there where the seam is. And on the other side, it looks, there's a little discoloration there, but otherwise it looks looking pretty good. Pretty good. I need to grind away at the other side and then the bottom. And to sand these. And that, I think, will go, I don't know. I can't say it's going to go faster. I mean, I can say, what do you mean? I can't say that. Of course I can. I just said it, so of course I can. But I'm not going to say it's going to go faster. I just said it. I said it's not going to go faster again. After I said I'm not going to say it, I said it. It's like the Knights who say "ni," and then their magic word was "it," and he kept saying it. I said it. Not obviously this is not as funny as that, but the same sort of thing. This should go faster because I'm going to be using quite coarse sandpaper. The scratch marks will actually become a feature rather than a flaw because I want them to look a little bit rough, like wood grain. And so if there are scratches that direction, it won't be that, it won't be a bad thing. But yeah, this side's taking a little bit more grinding away, but it is disappearing. That to happen, so I will continue doing this and promise that at some point I'll be satisfied with how it looks. I hope. It's not going away as quickly as the other side. Trying to get my eyes to focus on it, huh? It always looks better if I can't see it. Well, it would be if I used, I'm using 600 grit. That's about as far, it's about as coarse as I want to on this piece. Yeah, it's coming along. There's probably ways of doing this much faster. Like using slightly coarser paper and then polishing it later, or having I'm sure Ole Brager probably has one. Hi. No, I have to watch that. Did you did you do a promo for us? Wow, that's really cool. Thank you. I'm being highly compulsive about this model, and there were some seams. These two pieces got glued together, and um, the seam between the two pieces was deeper than I thought. So I'm spending it. Thank you so much. I'm going to check that out. I really appreciate it. And congratulations on your 10K. That is really cool. Have you spent any time at home lately, or have you been on the road constantly again? If you are not watching Ole Brager, you need to. You can become 10,003, of course. But thanks for dropping in, and thanks for mentioning that. I definitely will catch that. Thanks so much. You're really, really helpful to us. Have a good practice. Hope you're having decent weather. Thanks so much. And I will. Oli made a huge breakthrough on YouTube. Has now 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. And if you aren't one, you might as well be and join the group. You can be 10,074 or something, maybe. Some cool number. You could be a good number. Now, this is one of those things where if one keeps at it, yeah, this looks way better than it did before. I think it's looking okay. It's getting the corner. It's hard to get in there, and I'm tempted to use the needle file, but that could leave a big gash there. Allergies have been really, really bad this fall. Leaf mold has come out. Actually, it was worse a while ago. They're now in kind of a short-term drought. I hope it's short-term. And things getting very dry. So the leaf mold is down because there's no water to keep the mold going. But then there are other problems. Trees being stressed and plants that were just planted, some native grasses, trying to develop a little bit of a tiny bit of a prairie look up in front of our house. Okay, I wasn't sure when I was doing this whether I would be able to get rid of the seam because it was really pretty deep. And, I can still see that it's there, mainly through like a discoloration where the cement got on, joined the two pieces together. But you can't feel it. So I think it's ready for priming, and that's always, when one can see if there's still an issue after it's primed. If it's still there, then it needs some additional work, and it needs to be primed. It's just funny. One side is cleaning up faster than the other. The bottom has sort of the same issue as the top did, which is that it's got a pretty hefty seam on this side. So this is going to have to be sanded down. I think the two parts, the two halves didn't line up exactly perfectly. This is going to, I'm going to do it this way. Rub it on the sandpaper this way. It's a flat surface. So I think I can do it that way. Yeah, they're coming off. Just like the top, it's just taking more sanding than I would have thought. These will need a thorough washing before they are primed. All sorts of plastic sanding dust on them. Okay, on the bottom, I don't know how much I want to take off of the bottom. It won't hurt to take it down a little bit further and see if I can't get rid of that. On the other side. It's the other piece. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a seam showing too. The bottom isn't quite as critical. It's going to be painted differently, but the top was important because it's supposed to be like one solid piece of leather or fabric or something that cushions the top of the cart. Yeah, this is really messy. It's got all sorts of sanding dust on it that will get in the way, but I wash it isopropyl alcohol, and that should take care of it. Okay, I'm going to feel what the problem is there. Much diminished. I'm going to call that satisfactory on the bottom. You can see there's all sorts of white powder on there from the sanding. Okay, these guys are a little bit of a challenge. I'm going to be using very coarse sandpaper. I'm going to use my 150 grit, and hopefully, I don't know if you can see it, but the plastic itself is just smooth, and it shows on the inside of the cart. You can put the X on it, and you can still see it, and it doesn't. This does not look like a single plank of wood. So I'm trying to make it look like a single plank of wood by filling in the gaps, and then by sanding it this way with the grain, so that maybe the scratch marks will make it look like it's wood grain. Definitely sanding stuff off. I'll know when I'm done because all of this spackle here will disappear. It'll disappear because that's the surface. Right now I'm just grinding away at the edges, which are definitely not looking like a plank because they're raised above the surface of the rest of it. From here, it's reaching its point. You can see it's pretty much done there. That's why I'm slowing down. I'm trying to get the parts that aren't sanded, and so it's not uneven. I don't want to grind one half down and then not the other. Yeah, the ends are coming along. This middle part isn't. This is really close to being done. Just there's a high spot here yet. The standing block on there. So I can see what I'm doing and where it's still high and where it's low. Is done. It is. It's the whole surface is scarred up a little bit, and the filler stayed in, so the gaps are still filled. So that worked. That's good. I need to do this one. It's the same thing. Just rub away at it until it's mostly done, and then finish it with the sanding block. And then I'll piece the pieces together, make sure that they still fit, because there's the pants after I sanded those that they might not fit that well. I'll find out, huh? It's coming along. The same sort of thing. It's right at the top there where it's. Huh. Yeah, weird. It's like that part's just higher than everything else. This cuts really fast. But in this case, like I said, I want the scratches to be there because it will look more wood grainy than the smooth plastic. At least that's the intent. Definitely. Yeah, and the filler filled in. So as long as that stays after I clean it. Okay. What I need to do is get a tissue of some sort because the allergies Definitely working here today. Excuse me. The parts fit. I'm going to cement them together. Well, I'll wipe this off. I'm not going to use a solvent on it. I don't want to get. I don't want that spackle to be affected. I know that it will just dissolve in water. In this case, it's good to see those white lines because those white lines filled in a gap. And seeing the white lines means that when it's painted, you won't have a gap. I mean, by you, I mean me. I won't have a gap. Okay. I will now see whether these parts all fit nice and tight or whether I need to do some additional modifications. Maybe it helps to put the right parts in the right places. There. This is reversible. It's the same on both sides. That was nice of them to think of that. This together once so I know it's possible. Cementing this together. Well, probably easier because if like one side is cemented in, then side can be cemented in. Why is that not? Probably not because I can't see what I'm doing. The parts fit if they're lined up, but they're not fitting when I can't get them. It's holding this up. Okay, well, there it is. It fell apart. Oh, geez. I was putting it in backward again. It's really, they could not have made it clearer which side is which. They could not have done a better job of it. But I managed to twice now not pay attention. There's a real subtle difference in that one side of the little tab is round and one side is flat, but the not so subtle difference is that the outside has this ring on it. And, it's really obvious because it's a ring and the other side doesn't have a ring. Goes to show you just how things can be, right? Now this goes on the outside, and now it will fit easily in here because I will be putting a round peg in a round hole and vice in square in a square hole. There we go. And these parts all seem to fit pretty well. Uh, a little bit of an opening along the side here, but that's okay because that's how the cart was built. And then up here, I've got the same issue I had on the inside of these, in that there's, it's needs to be filled in and sanded. When I cement this together, it needs to be held like that, um, tightly like that, and maybe I'll just try to wrap a rubber band around it. So this is not bad. I've got the seams under control. The insides look pretty good. But then after it's done, then these need to be filled and sanded, which is something I wasn't anticipating having to do. But now that I'm looking at it, yeah, I mean, those are supposed to be solid pieces of vertical wood, and that's not like here where they actually inscribed it. That's because that's mortise and tendon. This piece of wood comes through and it's connected there. Looking at where to put the cement. Thinking I'm not even going to put cement on the X's on the inside. All right. And looking at this, there's a really good chance that if I put cement on the X's on the inside, it will ooze out and end up looking bad. And I don't want that to happen. Now, one thing I thought about doing was painting all of these pieces before assembling, but I'm not doing that. I'm going to paint them after it's all assembled. And the reason for that is that, like this. Okay, if I had just painted this and then I need to fill it in and sand it, then the painting would be messed up, and I don't want that. Yeah, so I'm going to just cement. I'm just going to be cementing on the insides of these channels. Yeah, I'm not going to put any there either because that could show. Let me see how much that shows. Yeah, I need to put a little bit on the bottom, otherwise it could separate on the bottom. Hopefully it won't ooze out. I'm not worried about these channels too much. If anything, it would help fill things in, but I do need to put a little cement on the bottom there to make sure that the bottom holds, and that I'm going to just put it in the little opening. And somewhere around here I have rubber band. I know because I put them away. I very carefully put them aside last week when I was cleaning up. There they are. Right. Well, This isn't going to build itself. So let's get the cement on here. And then get the pieces put together. Hmm. Apparently, I can't talk and put pieces together at the same time. I'm not going to try, right? Why try to do something you can't do? No. I'm just going to hold it for a couple of minutes and then put a rubber band around it and let it set. Nothing more fun than counting down 2 minutes silently. There, I should have the camera down lower, uh, but I didn't. So hold it up. There is the cart, and then the wheels, of course, go on the outside. This whole thing is going to be painted in the same fashion as the wooden dungeon tiles that we make. So it's going to be kind of a light neutral brown, kind of a light brown undercoat, and then a smoky ink wash. And the smoky ink wash is really nice. And then, I don't know, I'm going to paint the rings. The rings definitely I'll get painted on later after it's done. This, the thing in the middle, the plate that holds it together. I'm really tempted to paint that first and paint the wood up to it. Because what I don't want to do, see if I get the wood paint onto the metal, I can cover it with the metallic paint. And if I get the metallic paint onto the wood, touching it up after it's washed, that's really hard to match. It's hard to get it to match. These rings, they have to be painted later because the wood color has to go on the inside. and then the wood. Anyway, yeah, I've been kind of debating in, you know, not just now but previously about what to do with that plate in terms of whether to paint it first or second. And I'm just really thinking that it would be better to paint it first and then paint the wood up to it. And then either it's like got a little rust on it, or maybe I can very lightly touch it up. Of course, if I can touch it up without getting it back onto the wood, then I could probably have painted it after the wood was painted without getting the metallic onto the wood too. You would think that, right? Maybe you would think that. I wouldn't think that because I'm just not so certain about it. Although I don't know, I'm just not really sure how to do that. The same is true of these little plates where the wheels go. There. I think, again, it's do I paint those first and then the wood? I think maybe I might just have to trust myself that I'm able to paint up to the edges without messing it up. I do want to put a rubber band around this if I can. Right. Getting to watch my lack of dexterity here. And then I'm putting a lot of pressure on it. It's not holding real tightly, but it's holding some. I'm just seeing some, sure if there's dust on there. Yeah, we need to do that. Um, Another one around here. We need a smaller rubber band. Okay, well, it's better than nothing. Okay, well, it's not too bad. There's some little gaps here and here, but that's kind of a natural thing because that's how it's built. Okay, so I don't think that'll be too much of an issue, especially after it's painted. But after this sets for a bit, there's 11, yeah, around noonish or so. Um, I'm going to put the white filler in these bits here. I mean, you can see the issue, right? No, you can't. Now you can. Where what part this part fit inside of the other part. It's supposed to be on the outside. You can see it's just a piece of wood, right? But on the inside, it's one plastic set inside the other. So I'm going to do the same thing I did to the insides here, which is to fill in the gaps and then sand it down with coarse sandpaper. And that came out really well. The gaps are filled in. The coarse sandpaper gave it a slight wood grain kind of look. These will be less easy to sand. I'll have to just, you know, they're tiny, but I should be able to do that okay. Yeah, yeah, and then there'll be, stuff like there to get a needle or a pin or something and take that out. But definitely, for this to look good, that can't be like that. So I'll use the same technique, like I said, that I used down here on the side planks. Okay, so there's the body of the cart, and it needs a little bit of work yet. Since I'm not going to be streaming on Wednesday, what I'll probably do, since I want to paint this on Friday, is between now and then, sand that off and prime this. Okay, don't need those anymore. I'm going to now do some painting. These are the cartwheels. They could, yes, I will say it. I'm going to do a cartwheel. Do 4 cartwheels. And these are going to be painted 2 different colors. One, they've been primed, this white primer, but the browns, the brown shows through. And there's no place to grab them really. This is the outside. So I'm going to paint this first. I'm going to paint the wheel. Okay. Probably put it down on here. And then I'm going to grab the hub with an alligator clip and hope it doesn't pop off, and then paint the rest of it. And if it does pop off, I hope I can find it. I probably should do this like inside of a box, which would give me a slight chance. I mean, there would then be a slight chance that if it popped off of that, it would pop off and stay in the box. I've cluttered up the workbench here a little too much. I'm going to leave this here so you can see that I actually did something. I don't need the rubber bands. So I'm going to very carefully put them away where I'll never find them again. I don't need this sandpaper. Put that away. Yeah. Hopefully we'll find it again because I'll be needing that soon. I don't need the cement. What I need is this box. This is the too big box. It's too big for what I'm doing, but I hope that if one of these pops off of the alligator clip, it lands in the box. There. And this is my alligator clip holder. This has been around for like 40 years. It was used to, when you drill a hole through something, you usually put it. Hey, it's going really pretty well. I haven't seen you in a bit. Thanks for coming back. Yeah, these fit in these holes. And so after I clip one of those on, and this is the holder of the alligator clips. I'm about to paint cartwheels, or at least try. Let's see. I wanted to use. I'm going to paint them a fairly dark color. Dark medium. And then the hubs. I'm going to paint the hubs. This is the inside. You won't see that, but the outside, the hub, I'm going to paint, I believe, steel. At least that's what I'm going to try to do. So that the hub is a little bit darker than the rest of the wheel, just for some contrast. But these are like cast iron wheels. They're probably actually in the real thing painted black. So I think this should be a good color. If it turns out to be too dark, I mean, if I look at it and say this is looking too dark, then I can paint over it. I want a brush. This, fairly good bristles, so I can get in all these little holes and stuff. This is the kind of thing where I would miss the inside of some of these holes, and then I'd put it all together and I'd look at it and go, why is there a beige white showing when it should be this color? It's coming along pretty well. This is after a lot of sanding, I got the cart to where it looks pretty decent. I need to do some filling in yet because there's these gaps. That does not look like a piece of wood. It's just the way the plastic got put together. So I'll be putting some filler in there, and then after that dries, I'll sand it off, and then this whole thing get primed, and then on Friday I'll be painting it. I hope I'm back on Friday. Like I said, we're getting a heat pump installed, and they have to run the lines for the heat pump to the furnace directly over my head. And so I'm going to have to clean off the entire workbench, which is probably a good thing anyway. Because then by taking everything off of it, I'll be able to decide what to put back on it. Maybe less than there is now. But I will not be able to stream on Wednesday. And they're going to take at least 2 days, they said, to do this. So I hope I'll be able to, if we don't have to disassemble the monitors too much and we can get the camera back and things, I should be back on Friday. But I'll definitely be gone Wednesday. But if I'm not back on Friday, it's just because there wasn't time to reassemble the studio after they were done. Stuff. Some of this is pretty easy to do, like setting back the light is just setting it down on the workbench, and the microphone. Probably plugging in the cords will be the hardest thing. Anyway, I'm going to, after the stream today, at about 1:10, I'll be starting the process of removing all the stuff from the top of the workbench here. That's why I use a paper towel to close it. This stuff spatters. That would have been all over my hand. Probably get stuff all over my hand anyway, but at least at the moment it's not there. Okay, here's some Starting to do some relaxing painting here. Yeah, it's going to get all over the paper towel underneath. I don't care because the other side's going to get painted too. Gets paint on it, and it's just going to be the same paint. I'm like 90% certain that I'm going to miss a spot on the inside of the rim or something. This paint is really nicely liquid. It covers really well. It's easy to get too much on for this purpose. Yeah, I think that color is pretty decent. It's not too bright. The painting instructions, they paint it silver, and that wouldn't have looked very good. Okay. Now, here it is. I'm going to try to grab the hub and then paint the rest of it. I did it. Right. I didn't splash all over the place, but I managed to, yeah. Oh, look, I'm on camera. I would say there's a high percentage of the time when I'm doing this kind of thing, I hold it off camera just because I'm so not good at doing a show here. Okay, well, this color is going to be okay. I like the color. This brush creates bubbles. So I'm going to go around that and not have bubbles on this if I can. And I kind of like the fact that it's a little streaky. These are wheels on a cart, so they're not like the highest quality metal. Okay, I think I got all this. Can't see where I'm putting it. There, up there. Just stir it here. The paint, when it's sitting in a well like that, has a real tendency to have the little metallic bits. That's what they are, tiny pieces of metal. Separate from the solvent. Pushing out the bubbles that I have inevitably created. This paint was made for airbrushing, so it's quite thin. It covers really well, and the colors are nice. So for small surfaces like this, brushing it on works pretty well. For big surfaces, it's really hard to get even coverage with it. So like on the rocket nozzles on the Apollo, for example, I had had to put on 2 coats and brush it out a lot just to get rid of bubbles. I should have airbrushed those, but I will keep reminding everybody every time I mention airbrush is I can't. I'm just not good at it. I have never succeeded in learning how to effectively use an airbrush, which if you want to do models, you should. If you're going to invest in anything other than like your brushes and paints and cement, you definitely need to invest in needle files and sandpaper because, as you have seen over and over and over again, the parts come on sprues. They need to be cut off. The bits of the sprues need to be sanded off. There's seams from the molding process that need to be sanded out. There's misalignments from the molding process that need to be, wow, I don't know what happened there. Evened out. So you go needle files and sandpaper of many different grits from I'd say from 200 to 2000. I use a lot of 6 and 800s. And then if I want to polish something, I use like a 1200 or a 2000 grit to try to get the surface at the same polish level as the original plastic. Oftentimes I don't need to, like the edges of the wheels here. I sanded these down with 600 grit, and these are wheels. They're not polished. So a little rough surface texture. They actually could have been a little rougher even. Hurt. So, you buy your model and you want to get some good, not incredibly expensive brushes, but a very fine detail brush, and then a couple other brushes. And then if you're going to invest in anything, definitely needle files and all those different grits of sandpaper. Okay. These things, you can buy these. They're like 10 cents a piece. You get them by the dozen. They're designed for like grade school art projects where everybody gets one. And I usually keep using them until I'm just real cheap that way. Yeah. So this one is like almost unusable now. But I keep using it because, why waste another 10 cents worth of palette? Just getting the bubbles out here. But, if you're kind of serious at modeling and you can develop the skill, I'd certainly recommend that you invest in an airbrush and then learn how to use it, because everything will look a lot better if you do that. Then you want to get some good masking tape. Regular painter's tape sometimes is okay, but it's not always the best, because it could, like if you paint one color and then mask it and paint another color, that kind of masking tape can kind of, it can lift the first color off, and then that's not helpful. But that's not an expensive investment. The airbrush is kind of an expensive investment, but if you can get one and you can learn how to use it, you'll find that the quality of the painting on your model will be way better than if you just limit it to brushes. And you'll have you can always use spray paint. That's what I end up doing because of my lack of airbrushing skill. But that gets expensive compared to, just using the regular model paint and some thinner. And you don't have as many color choices. And so if you're trying to, brush on some paint in a certain spot, and then you want to match it with spray paint, you can easily do that with an airbrush because you use the same paint, just thinned down a little bit probably. But finding a spray paint of that same color is not. Sometimes you just can't. So I'm painting the whole hub, and I'm going to check the other ones because I want to paint that a darker color, but I don't want to miss a spot. And since I said I'm going to check them, I'm going to do that now. So that's exactly the kind of thing that I say I was going to do, and then I didn't do, and then later on it'll be a problem, like here. And there was a spot there that needed to be painted. I don't know if it's just me or, if this process just takes a while, but everything seems to take a really long time. I think I'm just getting paint on the inside of a wheel here. And I guess, I'm just being careful and making up for my lack of eye-hand coordination by doing, maybe doing it over twice or something. So if you're building a model, you might be able to go more quickly. My guess, though, is that, if you're really paying attention to the detail, like I was on the cart, okay, trying to get the seams to all match and, the contact points to all match and the seams to disappear. If you're doing that kind of thing, you'll probably find that the prep work usually just takes a huge amount of time. The detail painting is kind of fun, but I can't say that you might really enjoy the sanding and the filing. I can see how that could be, more relaxing than relaxed painting. And it's kind of satisfying too. They have a model with this big ugly seam showing on it, right? And you say if that's all painted, it'll just, instead of looking like the thing it's supposed to be, it'll look like a plastic model with a big seam showing. So to get rid of that and make it look really nice, that can be kind of satisfying. Okay, after I'm done with this, I'm going to recheck the other ones because the places, the insides of these little circles in the hubs, especially the insides of the circles, I'm noticing that this one is, you almost didn't get it. And I want to go back over the other ones and make sure that I haven't left spots uncovered. Okay, this looked like a bubble, but I think it's like a lump in the paint here. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to go over the other ones just to triple check before I say that they're done. Triple check the coverage here. as much as I can, given that I can hardly see. I'm not feeling the need to put on my head magnifiers for this. Okay. Well, since that looks good, it probably means I've missed something. But there. This paint dries pretty quickly, so I should be able to come back and paint the hubs a darker color yet today. Assuming I don't run into problems with something else. Well, we put my head magnifiers on to do that, though, because it's they're really small, and I have to be precise. To decide how I'm going to hold them while I'm doing that. I probably can just keep them on this while I do that hub, but then I have to take this off in order to do the inside. I'm being an inspector here. I'm inspecting the quality of the painting. I am happy with that color, though. I think that looks pretty good. And I hope that the having the hub a little darker will make it look decent. Oh yeah, this is much better than just painting them silver, which is what the painting instructions said. It would just be this bright silvery color, and it would look not like a wagon wheel. It would look like a chrome-plated wagon wheel. Well, I think that's good. What did I? There's always the how did I get paint there phenomenon. There's never an answer to that. I have never been able to create a satisfactory answer to how did I get paint there. Obviously, it's because I got paint there, but I know how I got that, but I don't know how I got that. You don't know what I'm there. It's on my thumb. I don't remember touching anything. Maybe just the tissue, the paper towel. I don't know. Okay, well, I'm waiting for those to dry. Let it go for a while. There's a couple of things that I definitely want to do during this stream. One is to fill in the bits on the cart where the way it's put together, it makes it look like not a solid piece of wood, where I need to put some filler in, and then I'll sand it down before I prime it and paint it. And then I'll paint the hubs on these. Yeah. So I've got maybe like half an hour before I should paint the hubs. Leave these in this box. Set the box aside. Set this down so it spills, I think. Put this box aside and hope that they don't pop off of the little alligator clips. So what I'm going to do while I'm waiting for the cement to finish setting enough to do some filling, and for the paint to dry on the wheels, is I've got a bunch of stuff to prep. These are the bits, the first bits for the inside detail of the plane. So I need to get the sprue chunks off, and I want to test fit them. And these are Porco Rossos, and I'm going to get those sanded down because they have some mold marks on them. But the problem with this is the base, and it's got a problem in that it's got these circles in it, and these circles are not part of the design, and they're in a real obvious place, and I'm not sure what to do with them. Usually, if they were raised up above the surface, I could sand them out pretty easily, but they're indented into the surface pretty deep, actually. And I'd have to sand this entire thing down and feather it in. I could try to fill them in. They'll still show because they'll be a different texture, but they wouldn't. I don't know. I'm kind of annoyed by that. And see, this part goes on here, and it kind of covers up those circles, but not entirely. They're going to show underneath. These are not covered by anything, nor is this one. These circles here, they're there. They're not very deep. Probably, the thing that I should just sand them out, and then I have to sand this entire thing so that it has a consistent texture. This is a really important piece. It's the whole base of this. The top of the plane lifts off, and the reason all of this is here is that it shows the interior detail of the plane, the bulkheads, the fuel tank, the cockpit, and all the control surfaces. So it's kind of cool in that the thing sets on it and then lifts off. So not only have the entire plane, but also have the interior detail of the plane. But those circles, and then there's one here, that's not a good thing. There's one here, that's not a good thing. Okay, well, before I can put this together, I want to see what I can do about those. But some priorities, I'm going to work on the Porco Rosso minifig. As if nothing else, okay, even if everything else just kind of gets delayed, I can paint the minifig. So if I can get this cleaned up, and I don't know if you can see them, but there's the mold marks where the two parts of the mold come together, and like right along right along his shoulder here. It shows. So there's just a lot of little sanding to be done. I'm going to use really fine grit on this, I think. I'm going to try this. I'm going to see if this works. It's 2000 grit. I think this emery cloth, I've used that before, 1500. This tends to work pretty well for this. I'm using this because I don't want to have scratch marks on it, right? And this is fine enough that it actually can polish clear parts. I've done that before where I've got a little cement on a clear part. I was able to actually polish it out. And these mold marks don't look like they're very big. I don't know if you can see it, but this does polish it to the same surface text, the same surface that it doesn't leave scratch marks. I'll just say that. Okay, it doesn't go very fast. But it doesn't mar the surface. It does polish it. Anyway, this is probably a good use of time, right? To get the Porco Rosso model looking like it doesn't have mold marks on its shoulder. And it'll take a while because I need to get into nooks and crannies and little spaces like that. Well, to chat about this is going on. I used up Tom Terrific. And not much more to say about Tom Terrific, I guess. Decided that he was not the greatest hero ever, but also decided that it was, his theme song. Why not? That it made for a good theme song. So we'll let him say it, even though we know it's not true. They're cartoon heroes. I had a good thing going talking about the destruction of the TV antenna industry, but that was a while ago, and I don't want to just repeat the same stuff over and over again. Although I am old enough to be able to say, to repeat stuff over and over again and pretend that I didn't. Yeah, don't you think I could get away with that? That's the third time you told that story. It's like, oh yeah? When was it before? How does it end? If you're so smart, finish it for me. But never mind. Go ahead and tell your story. You're listening to this on Twitch. You don't need to listen to the story over again. You just stop listening. But if it was like your grandkids, they'd have to sit there and listen to it again because their mother said, yeah, I know your grandpa told that story before, but it's only polite. You should be polite. So listen to the story. Do we really have to? Yes, you have to. And then you have to say, thank you for the wonderful story when it's over. You have to be polite like that. But you all on Twitch or YouTube, you don't need to. You don't need to be polite if I start just telling the same story over again. You just stop listening and listen to something else. Um, but like I said, even though I'm old enough to qualify for telling the same story over and over again, I won't. At least not knowingly. I might unknowingly. I can't. This is a piece of the sprue here where it was attached, and so that needs to be. There's so much of it. I'm going to file it off a little for a bit, and then sand it down. A lot of plastic on this, and yeah, this is in an inconvenient spot. It's right above the detail on its glove, and so there's a great opportunity there to seam on the. I'm just looking at the seams. The molding of this was done pretty well. And the seam, the little raised bit where excess plastic snuck out between the two parts of the mold is not very much, but it is quite visible. And when it's painted, it'll be seen. So again, trying to get like at least an A- on the quality of this build. I'm going out of my way to polish out these little seams all the way down to the boot. Yeah, they're just too obvious. But this is not helping. This is not good. I'm going to have to. This is going to be like a 3-step process of filing out the majority of it, and then probably use a coarser sandpaper, and then polish it. And then there's one on the other side, of course, but this one's not. Discovered that these files leave deeper file marks than I would think. A couple of times I've done it, and I didn't see any scratches in the file, but then I painted it, and there they were. Right, see where it goes right down to the top of the glove there. And so I need to try to be very careful. I'm trying to be careful to not mar the top of the glove, but at the same time, get rid of all this excess plastic. Well, this is taking a good deal longer than I thought it would. How many times do I say that during a stream? Why do I say a good deal? It's not a good deal. This is taking a bad deal longer than I thought it would. Good deal for anybody. Scraping away this plastic in a way that doesn't screw up the model. No, it's getting closer. It's getting to the point where I need to be quite cautious about it. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I've told the story of the destruction of the television antenna industry. I've told the story of the destruction of the vacuum tube industry, and all of the attendant bits associated with the vacuum tube industry, including the tube testers that used to appear in drugstores, the Woolworths and the five and dime. Yeah, that they used to call them that. Maybe I'll talk about that. So the drugstores were like variety stores, kind of like they are now. You could get all sorts of stuff at it. You could, including the wrap sandpaper around the file so I can get in the corner here, including vacuum tubes. Yeah, believe it or not. And you could go to the Woolworth, and they really did. They really did call them five and dime. It was on the sign out in front. I don't recall, even then, which was a while ago, being able to find anything for a nickel, much less a dime. I mean, that's what they meant. It wasn't $5 or a dime. It was 5 cents or a dime, 5 or 10 cents, because they used to have, it was like I guess the equivalent of the dollar store now. Everything now is 10 times as high as it was back in the 50s, like that. So, yeah, it would like be the equivalent of a dollar store now. Anyway, yeah. Some of them even had lunch counters. That was that was a famous thing, right? Like the Woolworths, the five and dime and stuff. They'd have a diner kind of lunch where you could get burgers and hot dogs and grilled cheese sandwiches. I remember eating at those every now and then. It was kind of a treat. Eating at any kind of restaurant sort of thing was a real treat when I was a kid growing up. We did not frequent restaurants with any regularity. It was a big deal. So I think sometimes with my aunt or my grandmother, we'd go to like the Woolworths and eat at the lunch counter. It was always white bread. They'd give you a slice of white bread and a pat of butter. I don't know, places still do that. Not really. Butter comes in these little plastic cups now. But the way the butter was served was a square. That's why it was called a pat. Square was a pat. And it was on a little, very, paperboard, like cardboard, kind of like a file card now, a kind of thickness of cardboard and covered with a wax paper on the top. And sometimes it would even say butter on it or the name of the place you were eating. But then, before that was the bread service. There's a slice of what in Europe it would be called American sandwich bread to distinguish it from real bread. But that would be a feature. And then sometimes it'd have, a classic lunch like grilled cheese and tomato soup. And if grandma was feeling like she had some extra dollars, like she saved up something from her grocery money or whatever, we could get French fries. And the French fries were the crinkle fries. They were always that way. There's never shoestring fries. They were what we call crinkle fries now, I guess, but they were just French fries then, the ones that were cut. like accordion folds. I guess that's how I describe them now. No, this is coming along pretty slowly. There's little bits there that are just not disappearing. Don't want to use the file on them because it would just, I don't know. Right at the top of the glove here, I'm having trouble getting. Maybe I will. Much of it is just. And the way you can see it is it's a lighter color. Okay. And that's the part that is not yielding to this. I can't tell. It should just turn out to be the same color as the rest of it, but it's still lighter. So I'm not really sure if it's going to show after it's painted or not. So it happens to be just where the mold seam goes across. It's so close to not being there anymore. I need to give up on it right now. Feels okay. I'm not feeling. Might have to just wait until it's primed to see how that looks. This leg is problematic. Okay. If you look at the outside of this leg, you can see that there isn't, I mean, other than a little bit of a line, tiny bit of a line really from the seam. And that's, it's visible and can be sanded out. The other side is just, it's got like a cavern in it compared to this. Take care of this side first, I guess, because I'm already doing this. Might as well finish it. Yeah, the Woolworths, I think they're all Woolworths. I'm not plugging anything in particular. I'm just talking about what I remember. We had one, it was about 3 blocks from our house, and I can't remember if it was branded or not. It, but it was like that. It had, the tube tester. There was a pharmacy there. The pharmacist was kind of grumpy. Summer job once, and I needed to buy a bus pass every every week, or I think it was every week. They were weekly bus passes. If one was a daily rider, it gave you like a 50% discount. It was a pretty good deal. And they sold them at the pharmacy counter. And so I deposit my paycheck. I don't remember how I did that. I must have gone to the bank like every week and deposited it. The bank wasn't that much further away. But then I want to write a check for the bus pass and like $5. That would be what I could use out of my paycheck was $5 for a week plus a bus pass. I was saving up, it was a summer job after my freshman year of college. And so, I needed to save as much as I could because back then it was actually possible to have a summer job and save enough to pretty much get through the whole school year. I know it's hard to believe that now, but it was. And I was getting paid what was then minimum wage, which was like $2.50 an hour, $2.70 something. Of course, that's like $10 an hour, whatever. Anyway, yeah. So every week it was a ritual. Who are you? Is your check good? Do I know you? It's like, I've been here Saturday, for the last month and a half, buying a bus pass and getting $5 cash. It's like, we don't like to take checks that are for more than the item that you're buying. It's like, I know, but I've been doing this now for, weeks and weeks. Anyway, my checks were always good, but we still had to do the whole ritual thing practically every week. But then I got my bus pass and my $5 and went back to work for another week. But yeah, I think this one, it was probably really small. But can't ever remembering the sizes of things is sometimes hard. They appear to be bigger or smaller in memory than they really were. So if you go back to a place that if you're older, oh, hi, I'm doing pretty well. We are working on, I'm going to reach over, be right back and show you. Working on the Savoia S.21, Porco Rosso's plane. And this is a really cool model. It was made in Japan. Pretty high quality. I think really well done. And this is the base of the hull of the plane. And this is Porco Rosso. It comes with two minifigs. One that's pretty nicely detailed that stands on this stand. And then one that's decapitated here that sits on the inside of the airplane. So what I'm doing is getting rid of the marks, the mold marks, because these were molded plastic, and there's always plastic that oozed out between the seams of the two parts of the mold, and it leaves this little ridge. So I'm using very, very fine emery cloth, 1500 grit, which means it's going quite slowly, okay, as I'm polishing away this line. You can see it here. It's the white line there. That's the raised part of the where the plastic oozed out a little bit between the two parts of the mold. And I'm just sanding it off. And I can tell I'm done because it's not white anymore. But I'm using this really fine grit so that it maintains the polish of the plastic underneath, so I don't have like scratch marks or a difference in surface texture. But it slows it down considerably because it doesn't take much off it each time. So this is taking a good long time. But I've assembled the cart and painted the wheels. So this is the cement is setting, and when I'm done, probably in a bit, I'm going to fill these spots in. I'm trying to get it to look really good, and where you can see here where the two parts of the plastic came together. There's gaps and things, and it doesn't look like a single plank of wood. So I'm going to fill those in and sand them a bit. But I thought while I was waiting for the cement to set, I could get Porco Rosso's minifig looking ready to prime and paint. I'm going to be gone Wednesday. I'll just mention that again for anybody who's joined later. I won't be here Wednesday because I'm in the basement and we're having a heat pump installed, and they're going to have to be working to get some of the connections and whatever piping and electrical and stuff right over my head, right where I'm sitting. And so I can't be here. And I'm hoping to be back on Friday, assuming that they actually finish their work on Thursday. And I can put, if not not all of the stuff that's on here, but most of it, get it back at least enough, like the cameras and the microphones and the cement and the sandpaper and stuff. And I'm not getting to that little bit there. Got his leg done, but on the arm here, there's a big chunk there. That's where the sprue was attached. There are just places, where the seam is just way too obvious, and it needs to come off. Like his arm. Most people's arms and pigs, even like Porco Rosso, don't have little raised ridges on their forearm. Okay, I'm going to go up along the side here, shoulder and stuff, and try to get these parts. And then I'm going to come back and get where the sprue was attached. So like most everything I am doing is modeling. This one is going quite slowly because I'm being really careful with it. I really want it to look good. Like I said, it's just, I don't need to have a Porco Rosso with little plastic ridges on it in places that are obvious, like the shoulders, where Oh, yeah, it's really bad on the shoulder here. Basically bad. It didn't look like much. When I started, it was clear that it was there, but didn't look like it was quite so obvious and deep. Anyway, there's challenges on this to make it look good. Like the hull of the plane has these circles in it that are really obvious, like especially back here. And I decided that I really do have to sand them out. I need to make them disappear. Goes all the way up the side of his head. There's when I run the sandpaper over it, you can see the little white, fine white stripe there that I need to take out. Using this needle file as my sanding block. It's a little bit of a danger in doing that. In that, if the sandpaper slips out, then I will gouge it with the sanding with the file. But it does get it into the little crevices. Friday, I'll be, if I can get this done today, the things I need to do today to really get going are I need to fill in the gaps. This will take just a couple of minutes. I say that like I know what I'm talking about. It shouldn't take very long to fill in the gaps on the cart. But I'd like to finish this Porco Rosso mini fig, at least this prep of it, so that I can prime it. And then on Friday, if nothing else, I can paint it then. And painting minifigs is always kind of a fun thing to do, assuming I can, get back to work on Friday. I believe I have all but, yeah, by Friday I'll have the one color that I don't have otherwise. Otherwise, I have all the colors I need for the minifig. I think that's okay. It's kind of the back of the strap of his goggles. Watching the scarf here. So the sprue was attached right here. It's a little better location than the other one. I can file it down close to the surface and then finish it. And then the other leg is a challenge because if you can see it, there's like this divot along the whole side. It just I'm not sure how that's going to go, but it's really obvious and it's not very nice. This is a top priority. But I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to finish the shoulder, this bit here on the elbow. And then I'm going to fill in those gaps because that has to be done. And then I'll come back to this and hopefully finish it yet, this stream. Yeah, anyway, the 5 and 10, the 5 and dime, even though it said 5 and 10 on the outside, we call it 5 and dime because why not? It's just easier to say, I guess, and more. This sounds cool. Yeah, back then, even in the late 50s up through the 60s, there really weren't any items there that were still like 5 cents or a dime. I guess some of the candy, you could go to the candy counter and find a 10-cent candy bar. So it wasn't a total lie, but it was a historic part of its name. But yeah, even the little one near us I do believe it had a lunch counter. There's a small one on the right side as we walked in the door, and the pharmacy was over on the left side. And then all scattered through it were just little bits of some, over the counter meds and candy bars and and toothpaste and toothbrushes, all that sort of stuff. And a tube tester that was pretty much right inside the door, where you could test your vacuum tubes to see if they were burned out or not. And if they were, you could buy a new one because there was a whole rack of different tubes up on the top of the tube tester. You could reach up and match the numbers, and there you go. You get it. You'd have one. And you could go home and plug it back into your TV or radio and didn't have to call a repair person. It was a self-service repair. Yeah. Can you imagine now? Your TV going bad, and all you do is you pull some tubes out of it and go to the corner drugstore and buy replacements, plug them in, and it would work again. Granted, the TVs were not all that great back then. But you could fix them that way. You could do it yourself, fixing with a vacuum tube. Now, if one of your 2 million transistors goes on one of your chips on the inside of it, trying to find a repair, getting the part would be more expensive practically than buying a whole nother set. But we could fix our TVs at the corner drugstore. Well, not at the corner drugstore, but, by way of. There's always one little spot that resistance is futile spot. You shall disappear eventually. Yeah, it was kind of, you can go there, have the grumpy pharmacist finally let you cash your check so you could get a bus pass and $5 spending, and then always as a courtesy would buy something, like a pack of gum or a chocolate bar or something. They didn't charge a check cashing fee, but there was the customary small purchase just to make up for the inconvenience they had of cashing your check, hoping that it would be good. Because even though you'd done it like 15 times already, it's like, Well, how do I know this check is good? Well, you know it was good before the last. Well, how do I know this one's good? It was good last week, but how do I know it's good this week? Really? Yeah, really. Those are the kind of adventures one had, you know, pretty exciting times. Going to the drugstore, cashing a check, and buying a candy bar or a new toothbrush or something. A little bit of evil plastic on the end of this sleeve here. Getting annoyed by it. It's there. I can feel it with my thumb, my fingernail. Okay, well, I'm going to try to get not so annoyed that I make an error and scratch it all up. But I do want it to be gone. It's where the sprue was attached. So there was a lump of plastic there that I mostly got rid of, but it's just a protuberance there. Okay. So I'm looking at the rest of this seam, just looking for where the seams might still be showing. And then I have to tackle the leg here, which is really problematic. Side, that looks okay. The arm looks okay, including where the sprue was on the top here. And look at that. Glove that needs to go. Okay, now this is the part here. You can see it's like a double ridge here and here. And it's one is a seam and the other is a flaw. So I don't know. This is going to take a while, I think, to get this. Find out. But yeah, I've got a half hour. It shouldn't take all of the half hour, but it might take quite a bit of it to get this done. But it is it's really kind of ugly. So I'm going to work on it this part first and then come at it from the other direction. Really kind of tempted to try to file it. But that's just me being impatient, knowing that if I try the file on it, I'll use the file as banding block. But if I use the file on it, using the file to get into on the shoe, there's an issue on the shoe here that needs to be dealt with. File just leaves gouges, and then it takes forever to sand them out because they're actually sometimes harder to sand out than the original problem. just because of the direction that they go in. The thing that needs to be sanded out, fortunately, is just a little white line. And when the little white line is gone, then the flaw is gone. But this grit is good because it's not leaving a texture problem. It's polishing it so it's polished. Yeah. Okay. Use the other one here. Gives me better control of where it is. So this has taken a very long time because of some of the flaws in the mold. But these definitely need to go away. One seems to be coming out. No, I think anything else. Keep at it long enough, it gets done. Right? So compare this to like being a laborer on an Egyptian temple. Right? Here we go. So you got this block of limestone, and they give you a pile of sand and another piece of rock. And they say, okay, what I want you to do is for the next 9 hours and for the next year and a half is take some of this really fine sand here and rub it against the limestone with this other harder stone until it's all shiny. And you go, sure, why not? But I'm getting bread and beer, so what more could I possibly want with my life other than doing that? But the block of limestone isn't this size of Porco Rosso here. The block of limestone is like 3 feet long and 1.5 feet wide. And you're supposed to polish the entire surface until it's shiny. So here I am complaining about spending, 45 minutes or so polishing out mold marks on Porco Rosso, where I could be spending 9 hours a day for a month and a half trying to polish a chunk of limestone with some sand. There. That's why I compare and contrast. So I guess in the scheme of things, this isn't all that bad. Can always say it could be worse, right? Could be better, but and just saying, oh, well, it could be better. Why am I doing this? But if it could be worse, then you go, oh, yeah, it could be worse. And at the end of this, at least I get to keep the Porco Rosso, right? After spending 9 hours a day for a month and a half polishing this piece of limestone with some sand and another rock. At least they didn't make me get my own sand, right? They brought the sand over. There was a sand carrier guy who spent 9 hours a day sweeping up the old used sand and bringing you new sand. That might be better. I wonder if that's a promotion. Would that be a better job? It might have been. I don't know. We probably had job categories back then, you know, like you were a level 2 limestone sander. You know, your sand carrier was at a level 1 sand carrier or a level 3 sand carrier. I'm just making the assumption that a bigger number is better. That might not be true. I mean, some ranks are like if you're a lieutenant, second lieutenant, that's not as good as being a first lieutenant. So maybe being a level 3 sand carrier, you know, is you're better off being a level 2 limestone sander. But I don't know. I mean, I really don't know if those jobs are ranked and which one would have ranked higher. What I do know is that spending an hour or so sanding down the mold marks on poor Porco Rosso's head. This guy's been decapitated. I'm not going to get to him today, so I'm just going to put it away. But this is probably better than the Egyptian thing. I'm pretty sure our beer is better anyway. I can't say that. I mean, I don't know. The Egyptian bread beer might have been pretty decent. There's no way of knowing. We'll never taste it. Okay, well, that's half of the problem. And there's one in the back. Looks like I am eventually, by grinding away at this forever, able to fix the leg. It's getting pretty close to looking okay. It was pretty much not okay when I started, that's for sure. And that's pretty much not okay under here. Yeah, I mean it's really close to being okay, but there's an issue right up under here. I'm even using the file because it's so hard to get to, right at the tip of his glove. Can I see it from the bottom? Just need to polish all of that. Yeah, so anyway, that was the story of going to the Woolworths that still had the sign out in front that said 5 cents and 10 cents, even though hardly anything in the store anymore sold for that except for gum and some candy. I don't know, maybe you could get like a box of matches or toothpicks or something for 10 cents. That might have been possible. still a line there. You can see it. See the white line on the pants there. That needs to be polished out. Being a little bit recalcitrant. This can get in it better. I'll try. One thing at least is I can grip this pretty tightly and not break any parts off. When I was working on the Apollo, there's always like working on something like this, and their parts would be potentially fragmented and fractured off all over the place. At least I can, rub pretty hard with this. Should have taken a before and after. Compare and contrast this, because the before was pretty ugly. I've got 15 minutes left. I'm running from 10 until 1 nowadays, just to remind everybody that instead of going from 10 until 2 with a break in between, I'm going from 10 until 1, oftentimes with no break at all, like today. Sometimes maybe just a quick bio, if necessary. But I'm finding I get more done. And I finish a little bit earlier, and it's just easier for me too. It's just easier to go for like 3 straight hours than it is to take a break and then come back. Usually the after break after 12:30ish or something, because it's always an extra long break. It's never just 20 minutes. It's always 40, because something comes up. I get more done, and I stay a little bit more focused. I've been experimenting with it now for like a week, and it seems to be going pretty well. It's under the glove here. It's just a spot that needs some abrasion. Well, what had been pretty bad is now not too bad in terms of its appearance. This needs to be cleaned, but I think it's good enough to be primed now. And I'll wash it off and prime it. And then on Friday, if it still looks okay, I'm going to be looking at it through my 2x magnifiers, right? Which is always a thing. I'm looking at it through my 2x magnifiers, then if it still looks okay. If not, there might be some spots where I still have to do a little bit of cleaning up, but pretty much I'm not seeing those themes like they were there before. Sometimes I can imagine I can see them, but I'm not really seeing them. And I'm especially kind of pleased at how this turned out, because this leg was really not very nice. It wasn't good. It had a divot on it, and now it looks okay. So there's, I'll be priming that. I need to put this aside. Need a little piece of paper for my spackling compound so I can fill in these bits. I don't want to do that yet today. They have all sorts of paper that I could use little bits of paper from, but here. Thing. Okay. Oh yeah, these guys are dry now. I'm going to these wheels, put them back in the little container that they were in, but they don't need to be on the clip anymore. I didn't get around to painting the hubs today. I'm sure you noticed that because it's not done, but because the Porco Rosso seams ended up taking longer than I expected, but that's something I can do on Friday. Again, assuming that I'm able to, if I'm able to get this work area back, if I can get it back by Friday. I'll know. I don't know when I'll know. It dries in the tube, right? There we go. Squeeze this and just, I just know it's going to be a mess. I do not understand why there is a problem. Why is there a problem right at the end of the stream? Right when everybody's saying, can't we just get on with this? No. Spackling compound will not come out of the tube. Sorry. I'm getting it all over my hands. I'm getting irritated. I'm going to have to drill this out. This is just absurd. What am I doing? Spending 4 minutes squeezing spackling compound out of a tube? Yeah, I am. There, finally. I think what happened is the cap came off, and so it dried. So this is another little micro kind of thing that will make a difference in the final appearance, but looks maybe excessive at the moment. And that's just filling in the gaps on these little vertical things. Just going to put way too much on it because it sands off pretty easily. And I want to make sure it's filled. I want to make sure it's filled in. Because if there's not enough, then it'll miss the whole point. If there's too much, then it's just a little bit of extra sanding. It's way too much, but yeah, this is another reason why ending this at 1 o'clock is a good idea, because right about now, just start getting, start losing focus a little bit, start getting a little bit irritated by things that aren't working that well. The eyesight starts getting fuzzy. Well, anyway, that'll be cleaned up in the sanding down part. And then I can prime this and paint it. So if all goes well, that's always a big thing, a big if. If all goes well, Friday, I should be able to, assuming I'm going to take a little bit of time tomorrow or Thursday, sometime between now and Thursday, sand these bits down. Here where I'm putting the pink stuff. It'll just be a little bit of sanding. And then I'll be able to prime this whole thing. And then on Friday, if I can get my work area back, if I can reconstruct it enough to be able to do some work, I should be able to paint the cart, finish the hubs on the wheels, and if the paint dries, actually finish the assembly of the cart, and I'll have a thing done on Friday. And then I can also begin painting Porco Rosso, the minifig. Okay, well, there's enough of that. Set this up. Put these parts back in the parts place. Use this. I'm going to use here. I'll show it to you. This is my. I'm going to store my parts here tray. This is the tray I used for the submarine a lot. I had lots of parts in here for the submarine. Okay. So this has to dry. This has to dry, and then I'll sand down the corner bits. Need to wash this. Really? Yeah, I'm not quite done with this yet. I've got a few minutes left. I'm just seeing a problem with the glove that wasn't obvious before. Oh yeah, keep this here. I've got them on a piece of tape so I could keep them numbered, so I could get them correct, get them in the correct places. So yeah, I need to go back to this. It's just when I looked at this, it just caught my eye that the glove is not good. So in the last 5 minutes of this, as I am finishing up the glove that was not good, I'm going to say Dyson Dungeons is a group of family and friends, and we are all about Dungeons and Dragons, not this. This is a spin-off, like Mork and Mindy was a spin-off of Happy Days, if I recall correctly. This is a spin-off of our Dungeons and Dragons show, and the way it's a spin-off is that this stream started with the painting of dungeon tiles and minifigs for the show. And when there weren't any dungeon tiles and minifigs to paint because we had all the ones we needed, then I started building models. And one of them was a big Ed Daddy Roth Think Eliminator. That was the first one I built. Nobody really liked that except me. I liked it. I think it came out really well. I like the Finks. But then I built a Renmal submarine, the one where the hull folds down and you can see all the detail on the inside. And when that was done, I finished that, I think, in March. Once that was finally done, it took a long, long time. That was finally done. I worked on the Apollo, and the Apollo is almost done. Those of you who had been watching saw all the pieces that had been finished when I showed them to you last week. I just have the command module to be done. Got the paper I needed, the sticky paper, for the control panels on the model. So between now and Friday, or next week even, be trying to figure out if I can print out the detailed control panels to go on the inside of the command module. And if that is a success, then I will install them and the Apollo will be done. And I'll continue then to work on this Porco Rosso Savoia S.21 until it's done. And the paint I need to continue the work on this should be arriving before Friday. So one of the things on Friday might be to do some test patches. I might do some test patches with especially the paint that's supposed to be used for the bottom of the plane, the hull, which is wood. So I'll be doing a test patch of that color and then testing different washes, different colors of washes on it, different thicknesses of washes to see which looks most like the wood it should look like. Because the plane was, I believe, it was like a wooden frame canvas, like fabric color covered plane. Why didn't I catch this before? So as I started working on the glove, I just saw that there were other spots that were not good. And so I'm trying to make them good right here at the end. Anyway, yes, Dungeons and Dragons. Dyson Dungeons is Dungeons and Dragons. Our show is streamed with a live chat on Sundays on Twitch, but you can check out and catch up on all of the previous episodes by going to YouTube or podcast. And if you haven't already, that would be terrific. And if you like this, or if you like our D&D show, or even if you don't like it, become a follower on Twitch, become a subscriber on YouTube, and for those wonderful people out there who want to help the show, you can go to patreon.com/Dyson Dungeons and become a patron. And patrons get access to our DM's notes, session notes, our warm-up preview, our warm-ups. We do an improv warm-up before every show, and you can watch those if you are a patron. And recently we've been starting this thing called hot takes from cold reads, where we ask an artificial intelligence thing to give us something about Dice and Dungeons, like a story or a prompt or a song or an epic poem or something, and then we read it and let everybody know what we think of the quality of work that AI does. And so far, they have been everything you would expect of AI. You know, it. I'm not worried about being replaced. I thought this was really well done, but I'm finding that there's still flaws here that I thought I had taken care of. That's the downside of looking at something again, right? Where you think you got it nailed, and then you look at it and find out that you don't. Down here on the pants, just little anyway. Yeah, anyway, there are resistance in this case has not been futile. Resistance has been effective. This is going to take a little more work. But I'm finding issues with it that I hadn't seen before. Yeah, well, it's time to end. I need to, for various reasons, need to stop. And I'll say thanks everybody who joined in today. I especially want to thank Ole Brager. And if you haven't already, please check out Ole's YouTube. He's got a wonderful show and has been very helpful in promoting us, Dice and Dungeons. So I want to thank him for that. But you can thank him by checking out his YouTube show. It is a real show, okay? Like our Dungeons and Dragons is a real show. It's done in a studio, and it's got good lighting and great microphones and all sorts of cool stuff. It's really good. Unlike this stream, which is done in the basement with an old used microphone and a ring lamp and me. It would be really complimentary if you could call me the James May. If you could consider me to be the James May of modeling. I mean, not being a model, but making models. Yeah, James, that would be complimentary. Let everybody know that that's what this is here. If you catch the episode from a couple of weeks ago before I got a haircut, I even had sort of like James Mayish hair, and it was all over the place. Anyway, I'd like that. That would be a real nice thing to do. As I keep messing with this, I can't stop. I keep seeing little bits of things that you can't see and probably will never be seen, but I can see, and I don't like them. Little ridges and little bits that are going to make it not. And then of course, my painting skill. I'm probably doing prep work here that is just a waste because my painting skill is limited. Make it stop. Make it be done. No, it won't be. There's always another spot. There's always a place where it could be a little better. There's just a little mark on one of his shoes that isn't going to matter, that I just can't let go. Okay. Well, this thing I did for the last 10 minutes that I said I wasn't going to do, that I ended up doing because it just bothered me, actually is making a difference. So it wasn't a waste of time. Might have been a waste of your time, but it wasn't a waste of the time I'm spent trying to make this model look really good. Since it was not a waste. This is much better now. In a largely invisible way, but it is. You'll have to trust me that it is better than it was, even though you probably can't see the difference and never will. Okay. Yeah, I'm, 10 minutes doing this that I wasn't planning on because I saw the side of the glove, and the side of the glove did not look good. The rest of this, okay, I will say the inside of the boots. Say that this is now not, this is okay now. This is I can wash this and prime it, and if I'm back on Friday, if not on Monday, okay, which is to say, if I'm not back on Friday, that means I wasn't able to get this workbench reassembled after the construction. But I'll be back on Monday if I'm not back on Friday, and I hope to be back on Friday because I'd like to continue to make progress on that. Okay, Porco Rosso is ready for priming. This has to be sanded and then it'll be primed. So on Friday there'll be cart painting and assembly, maybe Porco Rosso painting, maybe, and hubs of the wheels painting, likely. That's the plan. Okay, thanks everybody for joining in today. I will see you again, hopefully Friday. If not, again then on Monday, but hopefully Friday, from 10 until 1 or 1:10, as the case may be. Thanks everybody, and take care. And looking forward to having you join me on relaxing painting and stuff with Dice and Dungeons. See ya.